Physical properties. In this tutorial, we will learn about the physical properties of the lattice structure. Ionic compounds have high melting and boiling temperatures and are quite hard. So, ionic compounds need a high boiling temperature in order to turn from liquid to gas, and a high melting temperature to turn from solid to liquid. Okay, so since they have high melting and boiling temperatures and are quite hard, this implies something. That the particles that make up ionic substances are held tightly to each other. This means that the ionic bond between these ions is very strong. The properties of ionic solids reflect the strong interaction that exists between ions with opposite charges in the lattice. So, as we said, these properties, which are 1. High melting temperature, 2. High boiling temperature, and 3. Quite hard, reflect how strong is the bond between ions that are oppositely charged, so positive and negative. They are opposite, so they have a strong attraction, which results in a hard ionic compound. However, if this bond is not strong, then the ionic compound would be soft. That means it can easily break, and the melting and boiling temperatures would be low. Okay, let's continue reading. However, when the ionic substance melts, the attraction between the ions in the lattice is overcome, and the ions become mobile. So, for example, if we melt salt, then the attraction between the positive and the negative would be overcome or overpowered. So, to turn NaCl to liquid, we would need to break the bond between Na and Cl. So the ions would be mobile. That means they can move. Okay, now when the ions move, the ions can conduct electricity. So now, this ionic compound can conduct electricity. Let's read what we have here. In this state, they can carry electric current in the same way as the mobile electrons in a metallic solid. So, the ionic compound can conduct electricity when we melt it and turn it to liquid. However, in the solid, the electrons are not mobile. They can't move. Look here. This is an ionic solid. The ions are fixed or held in place. So, the ions which are held in position cannot conduct electricity. As you can see, each is in its place. The positive is here, the negative is here. They cannot conduct electricity. Okay, now if we melt this lattice, look at the ions now. The ions can move. Thus, they can conduct electricity. Okay, now if we melt the solid in water, it is an aqueous solution. An example is if we melt salt in water. Here, the ions can move and can conduct electricity. This means that the molten ionic substance or ionic substance in aqueous solutions both can conduct electricity because the ions can move. Okay, so the particles in ionic compounds are held in a regular structure with no sea of electrons. Notice how in the solid, the ions are arranged. We do not have a sea of electrons. We will talk about the sea of electrons later in the metallic bond. The sea of electrons helps metal in conducting electricity. Let's continue. Okay, so now in this lattice, each ion is in its place. They cannot move or conduct electricity. This means that a property of the ionic lattice is that it is hard. Other properties include having a high melting and boiling point, and it can conduct electricity if it is melted or dissolved in water.